Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is time for DSP versus the internet. That's right, it's that time of week again here on DSP Reacts, where I watch clips submitted by you, the members, all afternoon long. It just so happens that today is also Easter Sunday, so happy Easter to everyone who celebrates it. Today is March 31st, 2024, and this is episode 58, I believe, of the show. I mean, wow. We've been doing the show for over a year, and it doesn't feel like it, but man, time flies, right? So, episode 58. There will be some Easter-themed stuff today during the show, but also a good variety of stuff as usual. Remember, the order we do this is Ultra members have submitted their clips, and these are guaranteed to be watched, although not in their entirety. I can already tell you there's one clip in here I'm not too interested in, and we're going to go by it pretty fast. But I'm excited for the show. It's usually a good variety of fun, and I want to thank you all for being here and hanging out with me this afternoon. And if you're someone who wants to be part of the fun, please consider becoming a member today. The submissions tier members get their videos put into a randomized playlist, which everyone has an equal chance to be watched on the show. And of course, the ultra tier playlist. That's the big one. If you're an ultra member of the channel, the biggest level of support, you're guaranteed to get your video watched every week. All right, guys, gals, everybody else, let's get started. From the Tim and Eric Awesome Show. Remember, they used to have that show on Adult Swim? So I guess they have their own YouTube channel. And 10 years ago, they were doing a kitchen tips show. I guarantee you that this probably is a joke show and not serious. I mean, come on. Do you really think that they did anything serious ever? Right? I guess we'll find out. Now, we're not going to watch the whole thing. I'm curious, how he goes about this. Tim and Eric did some really weird things on Adult Swim, that's for sure. I'm also curious if we're able to watch this. I don't know if this is something that would get blocked on YouTube. I guess we're about to find out. Okay? All right, here we go. So it's definitely a parody of real cooking shows, right? It even looks like it's shot in the style of a real cooking show.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tim's Kitchen Tips. My name is Tim Heidecker, and it's a show where I can show you guys how to make fun, fast, and easy recipes right from the comfort of your own home. And I also want to send a message out to Deluge98. Go fuck yourself. He's a commenter, and he's been mean. He's said mean things about me and my family and the show and all this wonderful crew that makes the show possible. And let me just make it clear to you, what I'm doing is helpful. What you're doing is just negativity. So, but
that's a great way to start the show.
I'm here to talk about what's the name of that Tom Cruise movie? Cocktail sauce. It's actually just cocktail, but we're going to be making cocktail sauce today. And sometimes when you're eating at home, you don't think about having hors d'oeuvres or having appetizers, but now you can, and I'm going to show you how. It's very easy. 4 simple ingredients, but I've got a 5th ingredient that I think really adds a little something. All right, so we're going to start with your base, which is ketchup. We remember ketchup from the Russian dressing. Just put it in a
What? We remember ketchup from the Russian dressing? Oh, wait a minute.
And
oh, okay. He's done the show before. So he probably used ketchup to make Russian dressing previously on a previous episode. Okay. I mean, honestly, this is it's a funny take on a cooking show. I wonder if it's serious, though. Let's see if he actually makes the cocktail sauce.
Some horseradish sauce.
Yep.
This is new to
That's
us.
what's spicy.
Radish sauce. This has got a little bit of spice to it, a little bit of but it also has a creaminess to it, which really is quite nice. And yeah, this one likes to stick to the bottom of the bowl here. Get all that in. And chives. Everybody loves chives. This is in our French onion
generic music
dip. And now we have actually some minced up tomatoes, some fresh tomatoes. They smell great. And we're gonna just do a real kind of rough mix of this.
I always wondered, I had no idea what goes in a cocktail sauce. I didn't know it was horseradish. It makes sense because it has spice, but it's not like pepper.
Crazy. And right before you do your big mix, you want to add a little bit of pistons. And this is really by the eye. I'm pretty comfortable with it, so I do quite
mustard?
a bit.
Is it mustard in real cocktail sauce?
And we get our stir going here. And this, because of the tomatoes, you don't want to break up the tomato solids. You definitely want to keep this chunky, almost like a salsa.
It's too much mustard. It made it too, ooh. You can tell it's not right. Oh, no, here we go.
Oops. I don't like to keep a clean kitchen until after I'm done cooking. I like some of the chaos.
Stupid. Oh! Ugh.
We are getting close here. Okay. Wow, well, we actually mixed everything out. No problem. That's why I keep a clean counter space, because we'll just
Oh!
get everything back in there. And not a big deal.
Oh!
Not
Oh!
a big deal. And just for the, since I only have about a quarter of the pistons left, I'm just gonna empty the rest of her out.
Ah!
And
Might as well
fill
just
it with
make
a little
mustard.
water so you can get the rest of that out.
Ah!
So I did add a little bit extra fluid in here. So we want to whisk. We're going to want to whisk some of that fluid out.
What? All you're doing is aerating. It's not whisking
So
the
what I'm
fluid out.
doing
It's
is I'm
aerating the
creating
sauce more.
millions of little air bubbles out in there, and that's letting the water evaporate and get out of the sauce. It's thickening the sauce, almost like making a roux without the heat.
Oh.
So it has gotten a little runny, and you can see
It's gotten a little runny.
that run. Actually, if I do this,
Oh
you'll
yeah,
see the
now I
run.
can definitely see it. Oh, thanks for
Should
that.
have not put so much of the pistons water in it. So it's no problem. I'll just add
It's very reminiscent of the other show that we watch. What is it called? Like How to Basic? Yeah, it's very similar to that, where at first it seemed like it was going to be serious, and the further on it goes, it just gets more and more disgusting, right? Like, oh my god. Oh, man. Anyway, I don't know if I want to watch anymore because my stomach is turning as we as we continue. Oh my god, what does he do? Oh, come on. Oh, he's got Eric in there
been
too.
cleared, and now we have enough shrimp cocktail sauce to feed an army. But I got one guest. I want to thank him for coming on down. Why don't you come on down?
He came and
Mr.
cleaned it.
Eric Wareheim is here, and he's going to try my shrimp.
Oh, they're
How
gonna
are
have him
you?
try it? No.
So thanks for coming on down to try my sauce. And
Don't do that.
I understand you're in a bit of a rush today, so we'll try won't take too long.
Yeah, like I told Caroline yesterday, today's not the best time for me to shoot this. And you know, remember Adam Bloomquist, my best friend from high school? He passed, and
Oh.
I'm giving a speech, and you know, it's not a great time. But
Yeah, well,
I do need to be at the airport in an hour, so
Well, that's tricky. Yeah. I'm sure you'll be doing a lot of hanging out with old friends back in Philly. Maybe whip up some sauce.
This is how their humor is. It's always awkward humor, like lots of awkward, weird situations, pauses. You know, that's how their humor always was, and then ridiculous, over the top nonsense on top of it, like slapstick. So
Anybody can make these sauces from wherever you are, even if you're traveling. Go down to the supermarket. Anyway,
I'm stressed about the funeral. I'm upset about it, and I'm also stressed about getting to the airport in
let's
time.
just
So
cut to the chase. Why don't we take one piece of shrimp here?
No.
And just give her a. I'm gonna try some too.
no, I mean, I can't even watch.
Nice, huh?
tastes like mustard and water.
Well, this is just shrimp cocktail sauce.
And I don't even know what. I mean,
That's some old shrimp. So, be careful how much you eat. That's bad shrimp, guys. Spit it out. I don't want you getting sick on the flight.
I just want
Yeah.
you and the producers to kind of make a note of this. Caroline emailed everyone saying,
I know. I'm dealing with it. I'm dealing with it.
I don't want anything spicy. Of course, I'm allergic to shrimp, and now what I'm hearing that this is old shrimp.
No.
The least that you guys could have done is brought fresh shrimp.
All right.
But
well,
the smell in my mouth.
I know. I believe me. Heads will roll.
I know.
And I asked for fresh shrimp.
I don't know if
all right,
I don't
let me
know if the
just
smell is your sauce or this rotten shrimp, but it's making me sick.
All right, well, let me just close out by saying thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week with a new recipe here on Tim's Kitchen Tips.
I have a long flight. If I get sick on that goddamn flight.
Now they argue. Again, the whole show is filmed. It seems like a real cooking show, but it's obviously not. All right, now here's the deal, guys. All right, the next video is something I have zero interest in. I mean, absolutely freaking zero. I've expressed this on this show the last 2 weeks. All right, I'm going to reiterate something. I used to watch Nickelodeon during the era of the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I watched a lot of Nick at Night with my parents back in the late 80s, 90s, and then I watched the era of like, Guts, Double Dare, Salute Your Shorts, Pete and Pete, Rocco's Modern Life, the Doug cartoon show, that kind of stuff is when I watched it, okay? I did not watch Nickelodeon in the late 90s, early 2000s, through the 2000s. This was the era when I guess Nickelodeon had a ton of like sitcoms with kids involved. And right now, one of the big talks is that there's a show on Netflix, I think it is. I don't actually know what it's on. No, it's on Max, correct? It's on Max. And it's a documentary about how sadly, it seems like a lot of the kids were mistreated or put into really uncomfortable adult situations they should not have been in while on these sitcoms, and it's all being exposed now years and years later, okay? So we already watched a video about this a week or two ago, and I told everyone I'm not interested in it. I wasn't around for that era. I don't know any of these kids. I don't know anything about it. It's sad that it happened. Sadly, this is something that commonly probably happens in Hollywood all the time, and now it's good that it's coming to light, but I just don't care about it because I'm not interested. I have no involvement in it. I don't even know anything about it. Someone submitted an ultra clip this week. Oh, here's Dan Schneider's apology for the I don't care. I literally don't care. It has nothing to do with me. I have nothing to add or comment because I'm not involved in it. I don't even know anything about it. So why you would submit this video, I have no idea. We're going to watch it for like a minute, and then I'm going to move on. Because I already said I'm not interested in the idea. I don't know anything about it. But then you submit it as an ultra thing. It's like, oh, we'll watch the video anyway. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Here it is.
Hey, it's Boogie. I played T-Bo on Nickelodeon's iCarly. I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes. Dan, how are you?
I'm okay. I really appreciate you reaching out and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really glad you're here because I believe this is important.
For sure.
We've got a lot of things to unpack. But before I dive into my list of topics that I'd like to discuss, is there anything you'd like to start off with?
Absolutely. Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult. Me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret. And I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology.
Now,
Okay. That's enough. Like really, I don't know anything else about it. I'm not going to watch the show. I don't care about the show. I have no interest in the show. I was an adult when those children's shows were on. I don't need to know anything else about this. Let's move on. Please don't submit more videos about this. Thank you.
There is new legislation in Congress to change the standard work week from 40 hours to 32 with no change in pay. So basically, we're talking about a 3-day weekend every weekend without lowering wages. So here's the actual act.
So, wait a minute. Reduce the standard work week from 40 to 32 hours over 4 years by lowering the maximum hours threshold for overtime compensation for non-exempt employees. Require overtime pay at time and a half. Boy, I can't read. Let's try that again. Require overtime pay at time and a half for workdays longer than 8 hours. And overtime pay at double a worker's regular pay for workdays longer than 12 hours. Protect workers' pay and benefits to ensure that a reduction in the work week does not cause a loss in pay. This will never work. Here's why. Because even though in our government, a lot of our lawmakers are very well intentioned, okay? Like this idea, if this worked, reduce the work week for people in the United States. Make it so that they get paid more if they work more after 32 hours, okay? It's a good idea. But sadly, here's what happens when stuff like this passes, okay? 2 things. Number one, if you're in a job that previously you would get 40 hours a week. Now they're saying, well, you only get 32 hours and it's overtime. You will never receive over 32 hours. And now your hours just got cut. You just lost 8 hours a week of work that you used to get and get paid for because employers don't want to pay the overtime. So instead, they're just going to say, oh, well, just work 32 hours. Don't come in after that. So you hurt the workers. You didn't make the workers benefit from this. You literally had them get less work in a week. You're hurting the American workforce. You're not helping them. Okay? If the point here was, hey, you will have a 40-hour work week, but you'll get paid more for it, then that would benefit workers. But that's not what's going to happen. You understand? People are just going to get work less and get paid less and make less money. That doesn't help the Americans, okay, at all. Number two, the other thing that will happen is if you work a salary job. So this is a job where you're only supposed to work a certain amount of hours a day or whatever. But then they say, if you do work over that, you have to submit claims for overtime and everything. They're just going to say to their employees, don't submit the claims. Because if you do, basically you're going to get punished, but not officially. I've had jobs like this where I was told if you have a 40-hour work week, and if you work longer than 40 hours, you should submit claims for overtime. But by the way, no one ever did it because if you did, you got in trouble. Yeah. Because the employee doesn't want to pay overtime. So if you're frequently submitting for overtime, they'd be like, oh, we're not going to, what are you doing? And of course, is that illegal? Yes. Do the employers care? No. When I worked an office job for helicopter support, I never worked a 40-hour week. I always worked way more than 40 hours. Because and just being in the office, I was over 40 hours. And then they give me a laptop from which I worked at home. And I was specifically told, do not ever say you're working from home, but do all the work anyway. That way you don't get paid the overtime. That's what I was told. Okay? So the funny part about this is, again, in America, our lawmakers are well-intentioned, but they never actually think about what the repercussions of their changes to the law will be. This will not benefit American workers. All that will happen is that workers will get less hours and make less money. Because it's not forcing employers to have you work 40 hours and pay you more money. They're going to just reduce your hours. It's just stupidity. And this is what our lawmakers are busy doing, wasting everyone's time, pushing shit through like this that helps no one. It literally is a fluff piece law that if it gets passed, everyone suffers because of it.
32-hour Workweek Act, and it says highlighted in red, reduces the standard work week from 40 to 32 hours, changes to rules for overtime, and ensure the compensation does not fall because of the reduction in hours. So there it is. And let me know what you think about this proposal. Do you think this is good legislation? Do you think this is a terrible idea, or do you have mixed feelings about this? But please take a look in the comments, see what other people are saying, look at their point of view. I'm going to tell you what I think. Because,
I wonder what he says.
Yes, there is an aspect of this that I do like. However, there's something in this bill, in this act, that I really don't like.
Okay.
That I think it would happen, and I think it would harm the majority of Americans. Just my opinion. But we'll get to that. But let me give you...
SMR Tad says, most American politicians haven't worked a non-government job in like 10 years, so they don't even think of that. Yeah, it's dumb. This happens every time. Employers just pass it on to either the customer of the business or the people working in the business. I'll give you an example here, okay? Here in the Seattle area of the United States where I live, people in Seattle who run the government in Seattle passed a law saying from now on, anyone who does food delivery, so we're talking DoorDash, Uber Eats, what's the other popular one? I forget the third one because there's 3 of them that are really popular right now for delivery. But they passed a law that says from now on, those businesses must pay a minimum per transaction fee to each delivery person. Now, this has never happened before. What it used to be is you make money based on a tip that you receive from the person who ordered the food. That was the only pay that you would basically receive, and then a very small amount of money from the company. So let's say you're a DoorDasher, and you get tipped $7 by the person who ordered the food. You'd make $7 plus a very small base fee from DoorDash, so maybe you make like $8-9 a delivery. That's the pay you would receive. So now what the Seattle Council says is, well, that's not legal anymore. There's a minimum required that the company must pay the delivery person. Okay? So, okay, well, how is that going to affect everything? Well, they don't care. Just pass it because we think this will help the delivery people. Here's what happened. All the companies, DoorDash, Uber Eats, everyone just said, now there's an additional $5 fee for every customer. So you order your food, it's the same price it used to be, plus an additional $5. And that covers the fee that will be paid to the delivery person. So all that happens is the food got more expensive. So what ended up happening was people stopped ordering as much. And all the profits went down. And now the people who rely on that as their job have less work. They're making less money. When the intention of the law was to make more money for the delivery people, it backfired and they're making less money. And now in a panic, they're actually thinking of trying to get a way to repeal the law. Okay? This is what happens with American politics all the time. Okay? They think of this law and they intend it to work this way, but they never actually think far enough ahead or intelligently enough to say, what's the true thing that will happen if this law passes? And then the law passes and it screws everything up for everyone. And now, oh shit, now we got to fix it. It's moronic. Why are they not thinking ahead? Really? Why are they not thinking ahead and stuff like this? This law would be a disaster if it passed, unless there's other things in the law to prevent the reduction of hours to being given to the employees. It's stupidity.
The current stats. The average full-time worker in the U.S. works 42 hours a week. 40% of workers work at least 50 hours a week. 18% of workers work at least 60 hours a week. Now, I want to ask you this. How did we get here? Why is it the norm to work 40 hours a week, working 9 to 5? Have you ever thought of that? So here's your history lesson for today. I'm taking you back to 1938. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Fair Labor Standards Act. So this established a minimum wage, overtime pay, employment standards, etc.
Wow, huge act.
So that bill led to the standard 40-hour work week that we have today. Okay, now you fast forward, we come to today. Senator Bernie Sanders came up with this legislation, the 32-hour work week. Okay, now pay attention to this because this is where I need your critique, whether you agree or disagree. So Sanders is saying that times have changed since 1938. Why are we still sticking to this 40-hour work week? He says that Americans are 400% more productive today compared to the 1940s. But millions of Americans are working longer than 40 hours a week. So Sanders is saying that a 32-hour work week will be better for today's society because of advancements, major advancements in artificial intelligence, in automation, and technology in general. Now check this out. So Sanders, along with supporters, are making the argument that if you drop the standard from 40 hours to 32, that people will have more time to spend with their family, to pursue hobbies, to hang out with friends.
And out of those three things that he just described, which one of them make money so that you can have a living and you can support your family, right? Society right now is based on 40 hours being enough to make enough money to raise a family and have a living, right? If you're cutting 8 hours out of the profits that you make a week, where do you make up for that, Mr. Sanders? Again, it's like, oh, I have a great idea, but I don't think it through, but then we rush it and pass it. What the hell is your problem?
It's going to make people happier, and in turn, this will boost productivity at work.
What?
And this leads to...
So now you're going to be more productive at work, but you're working less, so you get paid the same amount of money for more productive work. Think about that. So the act makes you better at work, and you get paid the same amount for more productive work. Shouldn't it be you get paid more if you're more productive? What the fuck is going on?
Healthier and happier society. So let me know what you think. Now, let me give you my opinion, because there's going to be pros and cons.
Oh my
and
God.
Yes, there is an aspect to this that I do like. That sounds very attractive. So I'll tell it to you like this. I'm going to keep it real with you. If I worked less and I made the same amount of money, then yeah, that sounds awesome to me. I would be less stressed out. I would be less exhausted. I would have more free time. I would have more energy. And yeah, that sounds very appealing. But is this practical?
Right.
And what are the dangers?
This is the practicality.
So listen,
it's just American lawmakers are like, they never think of practicality. They think these big touchy-feely esoteric improvements. Yes, if the world was perfect, this law would be great. The world's not fucking perfect. You have to have practicality ingrained in your laws, and there's no practicality in any of this shit that these idiots try to pass.
Personal experience. This is a true story, and maybe you can relate. So when I worked in office jobs, when I was working in a cube, I wasted a lot of time. Like, I was a bad employee, but intentionally. You know, I definitely wasted more than 8 hours a week. I guarantee that, minimum 8 hours a week. I wasted 8 hours, but it looked like I was working, right? I could have gotten my work done in 32 hours a week without a doubt. I'm 100% sure. But that's an office job with minimal supervision. So for certain jobs, I don't know how this would work, you know, shortening the hours from 40 to 32. So let me explain. For example, let's just say that you're a security guard, right? How are you gonna output 40 hours worth of work in 32 hours?
You don't.
I mean, you kind of have to be there for the job. No matter how productive a security guard is in those 32 hours, it's not gonna make up for the 8 hours of absence.
That's right.
So am I right, or am I looking at this wrong? How about police officers? How about firefighters? How about teachers, factory workers, etc.?
All that's going to happen is the employee themselves will have less hours and make less money, and they're going to have to hire more employees. It's the same exact job. It needs to happen. It has to be staffed the same amount. It's not like, oh, because magically now people can only work 32 hours before there's overtime. Now the business will be closed an extra day a week. That will never happen, right? If you're running a bank, right? It's not like, oh, well, now the bank will only be open 4 days a week. No, it's still going to be open 5 days, but you're going to have to hire more employees to staff your bank because you don't want to pay overtime. So you're just going to hire an additional person to make up for the 8 hours that each other employee can't work. Again, what on earth is with American lawmakers? It doesn't make any sense at all. All right, let's watch one more video for this part.
Hundreds of thousands of British Muslims in the UK are observing the holy month of Ramadan with millions of Muslims around the globe. During Ramadan, Muslims fast by not eating or drinking from dawn until sunset. Just before dawn, Muslims eat a meal called suhoor, and they will stop eating and drinking until sunset when they break their fast during the iftar meal. Ramadan lasts between 29 and 30 days depending on the sighting of a new moon on the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. As one of the 5 pillars of Islam, fasting is mandatory for all Muslims who are capable and of good health. Muslims pray, read the Quran, and donate to charitable causes during the month as they draw closer to God. Imam Muzammil Ahmed in the East London Mosque explained how and why Ramadan is observed by millions of Muslims.
Ramadan for us as Muslims is an important month. This is the month in which we believe the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, and so Muslims, they gather together reading this book and observing the fast. Fasting is something that we believe was prescribed to the nations that came before us. Every single community of God, they used to practice the act of fasting to restrain themselves from, the things that distract them and busy them or occupy them in this world, and instead return to God and to focus on God and to build their relationship with Allah. So this is why we fast in the month of Ramadan, in the month of Ramadan specifically, because this is the month that Allah chose in which to reveal the Quran to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's gotta be so tough. So they
fast,
said dawn to dusk, so you can't eat until it's sundown. And you eat at sundown, and that's like your one meal of the whole day, and then you can't eat again until dusk of the next day. Because if you eat a giant meal at dusk, you're not going to really be hungry. I guess technically what you could do, you eat a big meal at dusk, you go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, you eat a breakfast before sunup. I guess it depends. What is your technical definition of dawn and dusk? I don't know. I don't know what they're going by. Is it sundown, sun up, And that could be different too, depending on the season and where you are in the world. It could also be different. But man, that would be tricky. And also, I would think you'd be pretty hungry. And I wonder, again, I'm not a medical guy or a doctor. I wonder what the physical toll is on the body. Because from what I'm not understanding, I could be wrong, but I thought that dietitians have said the best way to do it is actually to eat over the course of the day snacks. And not even to eat a big meal. Like you wake up in the morning, you have a small thing. You wait a few hours, you have a small thing. That way you're always giving your body the energy as it needs it, because it burns through one small thing. Now it needs the next. Burns through one. If you power load into one big meal, that's going to create tons of calories for the body that'll like stock on the body. That's, excess fat and things. But again, I don't know I think there may be different schools of thought on it too. And from what I'm going to understand, like from Slayer, who does this, because he's Muslim, he's told us that it's he does it for this 1 month a year, and it's tough. It's tricky to do it. But then you go back to normal after. Are there people who just do this all the time? Who just have that, like, just since you're going to do it during Ramadan, then just go ahead and just do it the whole year, right? And I wonder how that works. I've heard of the practice of intermittent fasting, but I don't know in practice how it really works.
When we say siyam, the word siyam or som, it doesn't refer to just abstaining from food and drink. In fact, there's a narration of the Prophet ﷺ where he teaches us that if a person simply doesn't eat and doesn't drink, but doesn't restrain themselves from all of the things that are harmful, that are prohibited, then in fact all they've done is just gone hungry and thirsty. The real act of siyam, along with restraining from food and drink, is to restrain your tongue, to restrain your eyes, to restrain your ears, all of these sorts of things that kind of, might make you look at something that's bad, might make you say something that's bad, hurtful to one another. All of these things are supposed to prevent ourselves from that. And that really is, as Muslims, the month of Ramadan, when it comes to fasting, it's a holistic.
So, in reality, it's not a month of fasting, it's a month of restraint. That's actually the better way to describe it. It's a month of actual pure restraint of yourself from dawn to dusk. And then going off and the sun goes down, you explode with rage and you eat. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration. I don't know. That's just what I'm trying to figure out. I'm sure if Slayer was here, he would tell us about it, but actually he's on the other side of the planet. So, actually, he's not here to answer this right now. I'm sure he'll do a follow-up at a later date. We're going to watch this, I'm sure. So, okay, interesting. All right, guys. That's part 1 of DSP versus the internet for this week. Some good Ultra member submissions so far, except for the Nickelodeon one, which I don't care about. And I hope that you enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next part. Thanks.